just a week away. Can you believe it, guys? Bandai Card Fest is in a week. Well, less than a week, but you get it. Yeah, that's right. Bandai Card Fest is in like this coming weekend. It's crazy to think about it. The game came out a few months ago, and now we're having our first nationals. I don't remember what the prize support is, but I bet it's cool. I heard something about going to Japan to like watch at Worlds and then play at a special side event kind of thing, but yeah, it's gonna be really exciting. And New Year's is tonight, and as a kind of a New Year's present or something like that, I'd like to take this time, do a tier list, as a end of year wrap up about the entire metagame that we've had. And hopefully with this I could show you what to expect at BCF, and hopefully I could predict what wins this entire thing. But I've recorded this multiple times already. I wanted to get a huge group to record this video, but unfortunately, we couldn't make the time. We were starting to do it last night, but then, someone had to go to bed, and then like the other guy doesn't know too much about it. I just decided to do a solo recording, and hopefully you guys enjoy. I don't care if you guys hate on my opinion. It's an opinionated piece. Feel free to like shit on me if I said some like outrageous bullshit claim. I'll learn. So yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, to start us off, we have Ashford Aggro. I think this is low S, high A, but we'll put it in S tier. This deck is crazy. It's super fast, it's super consistent, it's a little high rolly, but it'll kill by like turn 5 if like you don't do anything about it, or if you can't do anything about it. Next up on the list we have As Not Bambi. I think this is the only real variant of Yellow Bleach. It's like a tap-down control mid-range type deal, and for that it'll go into C tier. Blue Bombers is next. Bomber it's alright. I think it's probably like mid B, like maybe B tier, or even like high C. The issue with like bombers is that a lot of the removal only hits like 3Ks, and like it's better than slots at least. Next up is BP Burn. This is the Byakuya Renji Rukia control. I think this is gonna go into A tier. This is a bit unexplored to a lot of people because people think Renji Rush is a lot better, but I disagree. I think mid-game is very important in Union Arena, and everyone focuses on like getting 4Ks on board immediately, but I think that's wrong. I think you should be pressuring with 1.5, 2Ks, and then you punish your opponent by like putting the Byakuya down, minusing 1,000 the board, and then hitting 2 things with the Senmun Sakura, and now you've cleared 2 things, right? And let's say the second guy, they got 1 more character on board, and then you swing, you minus 1K, and let's say that was like a 2K, and now you've just killed it, and you've basically done a 3-4-1. Like, the deck is crazy, and I think people should be playing this a lot more over like the Rush Renji style kind of like gameplay. Next up, it's my own build, Cornelia combo. This is high C. If you are playing this at locals, you can get away with it. You can win locals, you can win your rare battles with this. However, if you plan to take this at the Bandai Card Fest, if you plan to take this at regionals, maybe at best you go X2, right? And X2-1, X2, X3. Toto control or Toto aggro. This is shit, dude. This is dog water. We're trying to make it work. We can't find we can't find ways to make it work. The issue with the deck is just like it's a lot of non-triggers, and even tweaking it to the way where it'll have only 10 non-triggers or 14 non-triggers, like if that's the best we can do, it's not worth it. I guess it's a fun deck. it's fun if it like works, but you gotta high roll your way there, and at that point it's not really worth, you know, you just it's a cheap variant of purple if you really want to play purple Gios, but it really is not worth it. Next up, Gurren Gawain. This is probably the best deck in the format. I think it's crazy. The deck plays itself. You just open your hand and you're like, all right, I see 1s, I see 2s, 3s, into 4, 5. You're like, all right, we'll roll with it. We'll do it live, and then 3, 4, 5 turns later, you're sitting on a board of 4Ks, and you're just swinging for a game. Next up, Gato control. I think this is high B. Gato is really annoying. Like if you stick 2 of them on board, like the game's over, right? You've just won. The issue with that is you can remove Gato. And the fact that he's not a cursed spirit or a transfigured human is like, he's really hard to search, right? And then you have the sub-engine of the transhumans with Mahito, the Junpeis, and like the transfigured persons. And like you just kind of like control the match by like sacking -1s into like reborning with the Mahito. You can go swing, sack something, and then bring it back, and then swing again. Like if it goes off, the deck kind of goes off. So we'll put it at B tier because there is some sort of consistency issue. Alright, Gojo control. This is one of my personal brews, but I'm pretty sure there is something better out there. However, Gojo control, it's the same boat as Mahito or Gato. I think it's up here, maybe up here, probably highest of the C tiers, right? The issue with this is that it is a control deck. It's like one of the true control decks where you are fighting to survive until you see your bombs, right? And the bomb is drawing your Gojos and then comboing off with it. Other than that, you're playing like mid-game. You're dancing around in the mid-game, like using your Toges to like pump up your guys and then swing for 4Ks or 3Ks because you only open 1, and like getting your pandas out, right? And the double block on the Gojo, on the color Gojo is fine, but the problem is it's a 35, and that is rough. I mean, there is what, 10 active triggers in this deck, so maybe you can take a hit, put the active trigger in the Gojo, and now you have a 75 or a 6500 double blocker. So I don't know. If you see the Gojos really early, like maybe it is like high B tier. Next up, Green Hunter or Gone and Friends. This is low A, high B. The issue with the deck is that it's, I don't know, like you have to stick the raids on board, like especially the 4-cost Gone, because if you don't, like a lot of your impacts kind of turn off, because I believe the 2-cost Kurapika and the 3-cost Gon needs a 4K, or no, the 3-cost needs it to become a 4K, and the Kurapika needs to have a 5K on field to start swinging for impacts. Other than that, like the deck's like kind of insane, right? The other issue with the deck is Fishing Rod. It needs to match the BP on your field compared to your opponent. So if you're trying to remove a 5K, like you better have rated a Gon this turn, or else you can't really use it. Next up, Ichigo, just like flat out Ichigo. Another one of my personal builds. I think this is a sleeper. I'm gonna shill myself here. I think this is at low A, maybe even higher. Nah. This utilizes a lot of like early game aggro, pushing up your Ichigos, pushing up your Iryus, and then just starting swing, and then you're forcing your opponent to push back with their 15s and 2Ks, and then you slam down the 2-cost Orihime. Now you've got a 3k double blocker, and now you're like, you've screwed up your opponent's game plan if they're trying to like go for like 5 drops and whatnot. This list also plays Ichigo's Room. I think Ichigo's Room is severely underrated. It's a 2-cost that draws you 2, discard 1. Sure, you could play like the other events that like draws you 2, but the good thing about this, it's a bridge. It's a bridge to your 3 drops. It's a 2-drop energy generator, and I think that's really important. The best part about it is it's also it's got a get trigger. So if they hit it out of your life, cool. Like you could just play it. Or yeah, you play it and then like sack it next turn. Like it basically allows you to move things up as you keep playing. And then when you don't need it anymore, you just cool, draw 2, discard 1, and now you've got 2 extra cards in the sideline. Slam down your Ichigos and then go off. Next up, we have Zoldyck family, and this is like the double damage turbo. However, this list that I found is not playing Uvogin. I would recommend Uvogin in this list. This is probably high B. There's a lot of issues with non-triggers in this deck, but at the same time, the fact that you're able to turbo out double damage it's really scary. Like, people say Impact's a lot better, but I think double damage is a lot better, right? You, especially in the early mid game, if you stick a double damager down, now you want your opponent's gonna be like, oh, I gotta block this. I don't want to lose 2 life this early, right? Like, if they fold under pressure, they start like pushing things that they shouldn't have. Then they just like lose like on the spot. Next up, Kurapika. I think this is still S tier. Snipe is insane. There's no other deck that does snipe right now, unless you're playing Silva and Zoldyck. Snipe is a really sick mechanic. It's removal, basically. This list is the triple box tournament winner. I think this is off of my memory. Neon is also a crack card. The fact that you're able to like go through your deck and then pick out something and then play it in active is just insane. All right. Other than that, like, it's still a deck that plays itself. I think it's still really strong, and I would put it here in S tier. Yeah. Lancelot. Supposedly the successor to Kurapika. Unfortunately, I put this at A tier. This build specifically I've brought to you is the Lancelot Cornelia list, but I think Lancelot in general is like very high A, but like maybe like it's pushing S tier. The biggest issue with this is the consistency. Trying to get to 8 energy is hard, right? Some people are playing the 4-drop Yuffie. I don't think that's worth it. It's a 4/2 3-gen, and like you're losing a lot of like combo potential by like dropping a 4/2. You need to be proactive in Union Arena, and like using a 2-cost, like it hurts, especially when you need that 2-cost or 2 AP to like combo off. You're just using it to like generate energy. It feels like a waste. And like the 1-drop Yuffie like sounds good until you like run up against Ichigo, you run up against like Mahito, you run up against BP Burn, and then or even like Purple Geass. They just minus your Lancelot, and then they eventually kill it. And the reason of that, because Euphemia actually doesn't protect from character abilities. It only protects events from hand. That also means if you hit a special out of life, they could still kill your Lancelot. And like that's an issue. So until set 2 comes out, I think this is low A or high A, pushing S tier status. Because in set 2 we get not the Nunnally, it's the Euphemia that generates 2 energy if you have a full back row. Moving on, we have Shikigami Rush. Wait, no, that's not right. Where is Nobara Megumi? Right here. Again, this is like maybe this one right here. What this deck does, it's you're basically playing Megumi that has a bunch of Nobaras in it, and then you're playing 2 raid lines. And the Megumi lets you like poop out all the divine dogs, and the dogs are like kind of crazy, right? The 0-drop +5's I think it's just another guy. +5's another guy, so like sometimes you just slip through. And then if you have a 0-cost dog and 3-cost dog, like you're swinging for 4k and 2k, and then like if you have a 0-cost dog in your sideline, like the 3-drop dog is like a double damager. And not only that, like the Nobara freeze is like kind of crazy. Like the consistency with Megumis, like finding the dogs, is also good. And then you're playing 2 copies of Toge, so you, like if you find yourself like a little bit lost in the mid game, because the deck is a lot of searching, it's not a lot of draw power. Technically the 10 Shadow technique draws you a card and then like plays you a Shikigami from hand, but you have 8 cyclers in the form, or 12 cyclers in the form of Megumis. So you're bound to always hit like a dog in like 1 every 2 searchers and whatnot. So with that, we'll put him, yeah, right here in B tier. Like the deck is good, but unfortunately you're not drawing cards, you're searching, and that's a little bit rough. Next up, Nanami Pure specifically. This deck is good. I think it'd be better if it's paired with the Sukuna. So for this list specifically, just like Nanami Pure, we put it... It's kind of rough because I'm a little bit biased. I love this deck. I think this deck is really cool. It plays a little bit aggressive, and it like really, this deck just like functions like crazy. So I put it like low A because it is a pretty mindless deck. You just slap things on board, especially if you open the Sasaki and Iguchis. You push them up and then you swing, mill 1, swing, mill 1, and then like before you know it, you're at 15 cards. Both of your Nanamis are online, and then you're just slamming for damage to impact ones. Next up, Nobara Gojo. Unfortunately, this feels a lot worse than pure Gojo, and right here, and like a lot worse than Megumi Nobara, because you lose the Megumis and you lose the stuff that makes Gojo control like really good. Like for some reason I've seen this deck like be played like everywhere, and like it just doesn't work because they read that they read the like they read Nobara and they read the Unlimited Void, and they're like, oh, they both rest, we gotta slap them together. But the issue with that is Gojo without the living power of like the Toges makes it really difficult for you to like survive. So if you only open the Gojos, it's rough. And then like if you only open the Nobara lines and the Panda lines, like you have no control power. So you're playing this like really weird like mid-rangey good stuff, and then you have to wait to draw the Gojos instead of like playing control through and through and like comboing off with Gojos and like hitting for big impacts, right? I guess the only thing I like about this list is that it's playing the Panda line, which just boosts it. So like maybe I wouldn't put this in C tier. Maybe I put this like right here, right? Next up, Old Man Turbo. This deck sucks. Above Toto? Below Toto? The biggest issue with this is that there's a lot of setup going on. You have to like play a lot of cards just to generate 7 energy, especially in a deck where like it's green bleach, right? For some reason, like Kurapika is good because Neon's cracked, right? And the rest of the main deck is also pretty stupid. But this, it doesn't feel good. Because, like, you're playing 2 raid bodies for Yamamoto, and like they both work better in the front line. So like you're more inclined to play up front, and like they just die. But I don't know, it just doesn't see that many results, right? Like Toshiro does a lot better job because they're just small guys going in. It's like a lot of this game's like very early aggro decks, but this one is just, oh man, it's like rough. Next up, Phantom Troop. This deck is also not real. A lot better than the other 2 though. No, it's probably worse, arguably worse. The only benefit to playing Phantom Troop is that if you are staying in the Phantom Troop archetype, you are playing the Uvogans, and the Uvogans are probably the best part about this deck. Everything else kind of sucks. Right, there's a lot of setup that you have to do to like get the ball rolling. You know, you need multiple characters on the field, and then trigger the Crollo, do this, do that, and then just like what, -4 something. If someone puts like the pressure on you, which is like a lot of the problems with control decks, this one specifically folds a lot to like early game rush. Next up, Pizza Time. Probably one of the better budget decks, to be honest. Unfortunately, a lot better than Pizza, or a lot better than Cornelia. Mainly because it does have an SR in the form of Lelouch. However, I wouldn't put it on A tier. I'd probably put it high B. It's a deck that cycles a lot and just naturally plays an early game aggro. You could realistically your curve is like 3. You're playing your 0s, pushing them up, playing the 2s in the back. Like a lot of the stuff you want to keep is in the back, like Ganymede, you want to keep them in the back, Nunnally, keep them in the back, Shirley, you keep them in the back. And then with Delivery Pizza, you are playing 4 Upstart Goblins. That's basically it. You draw 1, discard 1, and then resign an AP. Like, it's finger, but slightly worse. But you still gotta play it because it fuels your C2s. And by the time you're ready to play like C2s out, you could like push the Ganymede back if you push them up. And like if you have Nunnallys like in the back row and Shirley's in the back row, you're probably gonna have like multiple Shirleys in the back row, like plus a Nunnally. So you could start playing your C2s when you're ready. The Lelouch is a bonus. It's just removal. It's bonus removal next to Chess Game. Surprisingly, I thought Chess Game was the worst one compared to House of Horrors, but 4-drop versus 3-drop. You get the point. Also, the best part about this is that the Shirley Fournette, the 0 cost, you could raid over it with a Ganymede. So like if you go first, you could play Shirley, and then you could tap Shirley, drop a Nana, now you're generating 3, and then like, oh, I don't want to lose to Shirley, so you raid the Ganymede over it, and you keep it in the back line. You're searching for a pizza, and now you're generating 4 next turn. Like, it's pretty good. But high B tier amongst these. Ooh, it's kind of rough. The issue with the deck, like in general, though, is like you are cycling through your deck a lot, and sometimes you miss out on the good cards. Like There was a game where I cycled through my deck, and I know I bottom decked all the C2s, and I did it again. I did it again because I wasn't counting my deck. I cycled through my deck enough times to see the C2s again, and I know I can't grab them because it only grabs for pizza. So, yeah, unfortunately, it is high C. For a deck that searches a lot, there's a lot of consistency issues. Next up, Rush Renji. This deck, I hate this deck. People, you gotta stop, like, playing this. I don't know, this deck just ticks me off, but for what it's worth, like, rushing to get 4Ks on board, I mean, it's still a pretty good strategy. So, like, I hate this deck, but it's, like, right here. But why below the Illumi? The thing is, you're doing the same thing in Illumi, but the second you drop your 4Ks down, they're damaged too. These has 4K vanillas. Like, that's the biggest difference. Megumi Pure. Or, I guess, Shikigami's. This list has the Gojos in it, surprisingly enough. I think this is a lot better than the Gojo Megumi, but not as good as Nobara Megumi. The thing is, this deck plays a lot more 2 gens compared to the well, no, it doesn't. It plays about the same, but at least the 2 gens in this deck has a lot more utility compared to the one in Nobara Gojo, right? And just the fact that the Shikigamis get the bonus attack off of the Chimera Shadow Garden is, like, completely bonkers. The same with the 0 cost dogs, the 0 dogs and the 3 dogs. It's like the deck just completely rocks, and it's crazy. I just noticed this list is not playing the 0 drop Megumis. We gotta change this. Hexy, if you're watching this, fix your list. Next up, we are on, I believe, slots. Blue slots. This is the guy I lost to at the triple box tournament. I like his list a lot. I think it's clean. It looks really good, and it rocks really. However, the deck is a little bit poopy. I put this, like, right here. Is it better than Azeroth Bambi? No. The thing is, versus Azeroth Bambi, is that the deck plays itself. It's just not as good to beat anything that's higher than it. Slots, however, is a brick fest. You're playing, like, a lot of events. You're playing that fucking cat that I hate, and, like, it doesn't feel good when you open them without the cards that use them. Most of the time, you want to, like, play your Killuas, play the 3-drop Gons, you search them, you start swinging, draw 1, discard 1, fix your hand, but here's the big but. The gap, even. Sometimes you won't see them. Sometimes you'll rip 2 of them and you can only put 1 in your hand and then bottom the rest. Sometimes you won't see some copies at all. That's an issue, right? You really want to start snowballing with this deck, like, by turn 2, because if you don't, you will lose. Nanami Sukuna, I think this is, like, S tier, right? And I am absolutely biased with this choice. Feel free to disagree, but this is one of my favorite variants. I think collectively as a community, like at my locals, we have all gravitated towards this list, even, like, without even talking to each other. Just one day, we showed up to a rare battle, and half the room was playing this. But is it better to beat these? I think it's in contention. Is it better than the rest? Yeah, absolutely. Next up. Kyoto anti-meta, Kyoto control, whatever. I think this is hilarious. I think it sits at low A. And the biggest reason why is that if done correctly, you are going to be raiding your Toto when your opponent needs that energy generation the most. In a meta full of Kurapika's and Lancelots and anything that needs a 2-gen in their backline, Toto will come in and completely ruin your day. However, the rest of the deck doesn't feel good, right? There's a lot of weenies. Your biggest like damage maker is Toto himself, like both the Totos, and on a miracle that your Kasumi Miwa sticks around, she becomes incredibly powerful. Especially if you're playing against like mid-range. She's crazy. You slap her down, everything in your deck is Kyoto high, so you slap her down, you're -3ing something. Next turn, you probably push her up from the energy line. You swing, they have to block, swing again, they have to block again, and then the rest of your gang can just swing in. She's basically like damage 2 if you really think about it. And also like her as a blocker, like versus like 3Ks, she's crazy. Downside, she dies immediately to like burn effects, like getting Gawained, getting Renji, getting Ichigo'd. That's why Toto is like low A. But why not above the Nanami? I think it's because Nanami's a little bit faster, and like the fact that if you get your Nanami killed and then you just mill 2, rest something, is a little bit advantageous to this. Next up, Toshiro Rush. I think this is high beat. I'm sorry, it sucks. It's my favorite deck, but I gotta be real. This deck is not that good. Seeing your Unohanas like super early, like the 6-drop raids, you're just like, oh dude, this sucks. But the rest of the deck is like really good as well, right? You play a lot of weenies in the early game. Play the Toshiro when you need to, freeze something, you're getting in. It's, for an aggro deck, it does take a while to win because you're winning via attrition and not because you have impacts on your board. Your only impactor here is Kenpachi, the 4-2 Kenpachi. And it's real value if you stick him too, because like you play him, you KO something that's 5k or less if you have the required amount, and then if he restands, cool, you've got a 4k impact, and now you should be winning the game. The 4-1 Kenpachi is also pretty nuts, because you stick him on board, and it beats like the Gurren Gawains, it beats the Ichigos, it beats the Renji Byakuras, and like specifically those matchups, they're really good. But versus anything else on this list, they could put up a fight, and like if you run out of gas, which happens a lot, it's rough. It's rough for you. Next up, I don't know why I have Unohana in this. These are like the same decks. We'll just Yuji Sukuna. Any form of it, as long as you're playing a Yuji and a Sukuna. This is probably right here, not there, right here. The reason why this works is that I think bouncing with Yuji is crazy, and then the Sukuna plus the Shrine Stacks is also crazy. The only thing I don't agree with is like if you're playing the 6-drop Sukuna, that's a lot of resources going into it for like a bounce that might not even happen, especially if you open it like really early in the game when you have 0 to 1 fingers in your graveyard. Like, card sucks. Like, I wish it was something else, but as the game goes on, you have 3 to 4 fingers in your sideline, you drop them, huge bomb, you basically just win the game. They have to replay everything, and then you just smack them down. Last but not least, we're just yellow bleach in general. I think this deck is not real. Like, other variants of yellow bleach kind of sucks. However, better than these, funny enough. Like, just the deck doesn't function. There's like little to no draw power. It's kind of a, like playing the Lloyds is an anti-raid mechanic. Playing the Yawas is an anti-raid mechanic. The even playing the 4-2 Yawa as an anti-raid, like, sounds good on paper, but like The issue with the deck is it's a lot of non-triggers, and it's a little bit rough, like sticking bodies on board too, and trying to find your outs. It's just like, at this point, just like play the Nobara Gojo, like functions the same but plays a lot better. Then that's my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as for the deck that's going to take BCF, I don't know. Could be anything. But I think it's going to be Kurapika. Out of everything, I think it's Kurapika. Kurapika's consistent. Kurapika's good. It's slabbed out. Not to perfection. It could always be better. However, I think it's just going to just start slapping, you know? So yeah, that's my predictions. Let me know who you think is going to win BCF this January. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and, ring the bell for more Union Arena content just like this. Thank you. Oh yeah, and Happy New Year.